Is this thing on?
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Summits Podcast. Thank you all for joining us wherever you get your podcasts or on the Heroes Foundation YouTube channel. Got a good one for you guys today. One of our very highly valued, esteemed Summit partners from Duncan Supply, Mr. Chris Hendricks is our guest today. Welcome to the Summits Podcast.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
Why don't you give our listeners and viewers a little background intro on yourself?
Sure. So I'm from Duncan Supply Company. We have my family. I'm a part of the Duncan family, and we've been in business since 1936. So 86 years of my family's...
You look great for 86.
Right, exactly. Yeah. I try. 86 years of my family's history has kind of been wrapped up into an HVAC, refrigeration, and food service wholesale distributor. Okay. Based out of Indianapolis here with currently 10 branches, and I think shortly after this airs, we'll be opening our 11th branch.
Nice.
In Indiana.
Nice. Congrats.
So, thank you.
Yeah, you're getting close to the 100-year mark.
We're getting close.
Yeah.
My mother was so excited to have been retired before that happened.
Yeah.
She kind of planned our 75th anniversary, and she said, I'm out for 100. That's all I
Yeah.
So, you grew up from Indiana.
From Indianapolis, yeah.
Where'd you go to high school?
Ben Davis.
Ben Davis?
Yeah.
Okay, and then undergrad?
Undergrad I did at IU,
Nice.
down in Bloomington. And then once I came back and really had to learn our industry and what it was about, spent a few years working inside. My brother and I, at the time he was working for us, we opened a distribution center in Plainfield.
Okay.
And during that time there, I got linked up with Texas A&M University. And Texas A&M has a huge distribution program.
Okay.
That's about 80% remote. So I had to do about 5 weeks worth of travel over 2 years. But I got a master's from Texas A&M in distribution.
Okay.
So,
Nice.
Cool.
yeah,
Nice.
really. I kind of think of it as it's kind of like an MBA, only geared for distributors.
Yeah.
Sure.
For what we do.
Yeah.
So.
That's cool.
I'm sure that's coming in real handy these days, right?
Last few years, especially.
Yeah.
So, and this is maybe a little off topic, but when you graduated from, did you go straight into the business, or did you go do something else?
Actually,
first?
so when I was 17, I was sitting at my grandfather's kitchen table, and he said, you know, what are you going to do next year? And I think, I know at the time he had an intention for asking that question.
Yeah.
I'm the youngest of 5 in the 4th generation.
Okay.
And I told him, I said, well, you know, next year I've been accepted to IU. I'm going pre-med. I want to go into physical therapy and athletic training. Had a really life-changing knee injury when I was about 15.
Okay.
Now, 4 surgeries later, I can play as much as I want if I can tolerate the pain.
Right.
Yeah.
But he offered me another idea, and he said, you know, we have the business over here, and if you want to take an interest, I'll make sure it's here. But if you don't, that's okay. I'm going to sell it before I die. And so it took 24 hours to come back and say, I don't get what we do. I don't really understand it, but I've grown up with these people.
Yeah.
I've known some of these people. Our counter manager in Indianapolis retired about 2.5 weeks ago at 50 years.
Nice.
Wow.
The guy who's held my seat before me retired at 47 years. Longevity is huge with us. And so I said, I've grown up with all these people. I don't want to see them become a number. 24 hours later, I said, I'm changing my major already before I even get to Bloomington, and I'm all in. You know, this is what I want to. I don't want this tradition to die.
Right.
I don't want to see all this work gone for nothing. And I said, I'll find my passion later. And so later on, it took a while, but I found it. I was always told I can't work for the business until I'm 18 because insurance wouldn't cover me. So when I graduated from Ben Davis, I graduated at 19 and went to Bloomington, and I started working out in our Bloomington store. So we have a store down there.
Okay.
And I really got an idea of what it was like to work in a small branch versus a home office. And then I opened a distribution center and just kind of expanded from there.
Okay. Yeah, I've talked to several people who have the opportunity to go into family business, and the question is, do you go right in out of college, or maybe go do something else first, or even if it's in the same industry, but go cut your teeth somewhere else?
Yeah.
And I'm sure you could debate this all day. Typically, I would be one who would say, you know what, go somewhere else first, just to really make sure that's what you want to do. I think you kind of already had come to that conclusion ahead of time.
Yeah, I mean, I'd had a bunch of odd jobs, like in high school and whatnot, and it wasn't that big of a deal. But what scared me is if I didn't make a commitment, I didn't know what was going to happen because there wasn't a plan B.
Yeah.
I was the last resort in line, and they said, hey, this isn't going to leave the hands of the family. So if you don't want to do this, that's okay.
Yeah.
But it's gone.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where it was like, could I have gone to do what I really wanted to do? I could have. And then could I have come back? Yeah, absolutely. But looking at the time frame, looking at how old people were, I knew I'd be flirting with a really tight line if I wanted to do that. So
Yeah. So how many, or do any of your other siblings work in the business as well?
Not any of my siblings.
Okay.
I've got 2 older brothers. One's an IFD firefighter.
Okay.
The other's a teacher.
Okay.
I have 2 cousins, one of which is there. We have some distant cousins that are there. My mother retired last year. My aunt is still our credit manager. So I do have some family still there.
Yeah.
There's
Sure,
about
yeah.
5 within the family still there.
Okay.
Despite the fact my mom retired last year, she's constantly doing projects for us all the time. So we just don't get away from it.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah.
We can share those stories later
Yeah.
over additional beers.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, cool. What, if you would, why don't you share with us what your cancer story is, and then we'll kind of get into the relationship between Duncan and Heroes Foundation.
Sure. So it was interesting. Up until 2020, I didn't really have a cancer story.
Yeah.
A lot of, I know when I look around, and this experience opened my eyes, that everybody some way, shape, or form is affected. And I looked at this event, and I wasn't really affected too much. And I looked at how much of a blessing that was. On the day after St. Patrick's Day of 2020, my dad called me. And for St. Patrick's Day, we always have a tradition that we kind of do. And up until I had kids, it's made it a lot harder. But my parents are pretty good friends with Jan and Jerry O'Brien, if you know the name.
Yep.
They own 9 Irish Brothers.
Yep.
And so we always go up to 9 Irish Brothers West Lafayette specifically because that's the home
correct
store,
one.
and that's
That's the right one. Yeah.
And I don't like Purdue, but this will be the spirit. I get it. No. So we always go up to 9 Irish Brothers, and I couldn't make this happen, this one. And my dad called me, and the next morning he says, why don't you come over here? I said, okay. And I came over, and he said, I think I got to quit drinking. Wow. That could have been nice, huh?
I'm sorry. Am I good here?
What are you saying? And he said, well, here, feel my belly. And smart ass that I am, seems like you're getting kind of fat, Dad. And he says, no, okay. Now feel the other side. And just off center, I feel a little bit of something hard there. And he said, I think it's my liver. I said, well, I don't think that's quite right, but obviously something's not right there, so why don't you call a doctor? And mind you, this is in March of 20, so everything's starting to fall apart. So he does. He calls his doctor, and my dad is somebody who is very routine about anything medical. I think from the time he turned 55, every single doctor's appointment that he should have, he has made. Every year religiously. Yeah. Everything from regular checkups to optical to dental. He's over the top. So he calls his doctor, and she says, well, you're due in April. Why don't we just wait and see how things go? If it becomes a problem, because she says, are you in pain or discomfort? No, I feel fine. I just noticed this spot. She says, okay, well, everything's checked out. You got a little bit high blood pressure, but shouldn't be anything to worry about. Let me know if anything changes. She says, okay. About a week later, he spikes a temperature of about 104. And then the next morning, he's at 96. Okay, calls the doctor and says, that's really weird. Just keep me, what's going on with COVID here? No, I've taken a test. It's negative. Okay, about it, 2 days later, almost 105, 98. And it's just this big swings left and right. She said, okay, if it happens one more time, I want you to go in. So I think now this has gone from towards the 3rd week of March to about almost the 1st week of April. Okay. And it happens again, and he goes in through Hendricks Regional. And they went through immediate care, and they said, I've been getting these temperature swings. They've tested for COVID. Okay, it's not COVID. And they said, oh, let's get this imaging done on your side. And he went in, and it was April 10th of 2020. It was the day before he turned 65. And he comes back. He went to the doctor for the follow-up. I remember him doing that. And I happened to be at home that day with my kids. There were some daycare issues, as you can imagine at that time.
Yeah.
And he came straight over, and he told me his scans came back as stage 4 metastatic carcinoma. Kidney, liver, lungs, and his pancreas.
Wow.
Coming from a guy who had nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, every once in a while he'd catch a cold. But, I mean, a guy who's been routinely healthy his whole life.
Yeah.
He's never had an operation of any kind, other than the fact that when he was about, I think he was 17, he blew some fingers off with a cannon in shop class, or that he made in shop class.
Okay.
So he had his hand worked on. But outside of that, he's been perfectly healthy, who gets routine, all the right checkups done. And a year before, nothing. And now, stage 4. So then there was the panic of, okay, well, what do we do? Starts the process that nobody in my family's really been through.
Right.
So, of course, what do you want to know? We want to know, what is it? How do we treat it? What's the plan?
Mm-hmm.
And we weren't used to that. So now come all of the waiting games.
Yeah.
And it took reaching out to a lot of different people to find out, like, no, that's normal. Like, it's going to take some time, which is the last thing you want to hear.
Yeah.
And it took a while until we found out that it officially was originated in the kidney.
Okay.
So he had, what we were feeling on his stomach was actually his kidney protruding through the front.
Okay.
So the mass was that big.
Wow.
So he linked up with the doctor out of Hendricks Regional. At the time, I think he was with American Health Network, but he kind of did help with everybody. And he said he had a lot of success with immunotherapies, and he wanted to try that. Got him rolling, and that's when we really got scared, because we looked at who my dad was, who seemed to be perfectly healthy, minus the news that was just delivered, to starting to treat this thing, and he plummeted so far, so quickly on this treatment that, like, we were legitimately ready to start planning his funeral. It was that terrifying.
Yeah.
He couldn't eat, he couldn't walk, he couldn't stay awake, he couldn't drive. All non-invasive at all. I mean, they put a port in his shoulder and it all intravenous, but it just happened so fast. And they said, this is normal. Like, this is expected. He is going to plummet, but he will build it right back up. And it's, weather the storm, it's going to be okay. And so, okay, is it?
Right.
And it was. And when he was originally diagnosed, they gave him 12 months.
Okay.
And that was April 10th of 2020. Today, he's still here. Fast forward from 2020 to 22, he's been on a few different treatments that, as ones start to become less effective or non-effective, they've changed to another.
Yep.
It got to the point where in May, he actually had his kidney removed.
Okay.
That was the last step. Like, we don't want to do this because we don't know how interconnected it's all going to be. A lot of it we can't see, so we just kind of have to see.
Yeah.
And he was linked up with a great uro-oncologist out of Urology of Indiana that was done at St. V's.
Okay.
We went in, and he said, my job is to be brutally honest with you. And he said, I don't want to give you any sort of false hope that would make you think anything different. He said, because we don't know what this is really connected to and how it's going to work, prepare that this is 50-50 shot.
Okay.
He may make it out of this. He may not.
Yeah.
We're hopeful. I mean, obviously, that's what we're striving for.
Yeah.
But when you hear that, it's just
Yeah.
like 50-50 that is this the right decision? Do we do it?
Yep.
And at that point, he said, well, what if I got to lose? You know? So he made he made all his arrangements that if it went south, here's what's going to happen. Through that came a lot of good times, a lot of good conversations, a lot of quality time.
Right.
But he went through the surgery, and it was about 6 hours. Doctor came out and said it went absolutely as good as it possibly could have. And I said, now, what we took out, because they took out the kidney, they took out the tumor that was attached, and I think they took out about 10 centimeters of his large intestine. They took it out in one piece. They said it came out to be about the size of an NFL football.
Wow.
Is what just came out of him. So he said
Wow.
his pain should be drastically less once he heals.
Yeah.
So off treatment for a month, surgery, off treatment for a month. Now he's on a new treatment plan. So because they live on the west side, they go through Hendricks Regional.
Mm-hmm.
Hendricks Regional has a new partnership through Mayo Clinic.
Okay.
His uro-oncologist at Urology of Indiana used to work directly for MD Anderson.
Okay.
So he has all these networks that are now working in conjunction with each other.
Right.
Yeah.
So we feel like we're in the best of hands that we could be. And as of today, he's been on his treatment for a little over 2.5 weeks, and he says he feels great.
Awesome.
So
Yeah.
you look at him, you could probably tell, like, okay, you might be sick, or he's much thinner than he should be.
Yeah.
But he's starting to eat again. He's starting to live life. He's starting
Right.
to have fun. He goes out, and I think before I got to work this morning, I think around 7:30, and he was already out fishing.
Nice.
Like just
Nice.
with one of
Yeah.
his friends. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
that's good.
He's trying to really do everything he can. So
Yeah.
Right. That's great.
Yeah, that's awesome.
What is his plan in the short term? Is it just stay on this treatment and see how it goes?
Right now he kind of because we asked him. We said, this is your life, and what do you want to do?
Yeah.
I have 2 kids of my own. Youngest is 3, oldest is 5.
Okay.
My oldest brother, has 3 children. The oldest, I think, she's going to kill me. I think she's 11 or turning 11, and the youngest is 2. And so he's got a lot of grandkids that he wants to be here for. And he said,
Right.
no, I'm going to do whatever we need to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, understand then you have to listen to us too. When it's time that you're not following the plan, we're going to make you follow the plan if this is what you want to do.
Should be some intervention.
Yeah, exactly. And he's hated it, but he knew it was for the right reasons, and
Right.
and he's still here. So he's here, and his quality of life is here, and I think that's a big part of it.
Right. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
good. Continued success with him, and if there's anything we can do, certainly let us know. You guys, Duncan Supply has been a great partner for the last 2 years. What attracted you to the Heroes Foundation? And so I guess, as we like to say, why Heroes?
Yeah. Well, I'm a firm believer. One of the things that I get from my mother, that everything happens for a reason, especially when you don't understand it.
All right.
You just, things happen in a really weird way. And I found the right people when I needed to. And what it was is actually I went out to a networking event and I met Daniel.
Mm-hmm.
And he happened to come in. We're talking about our business and the things that they do and services that they offer. And there was a break in the conversation. One of my guys had gotten up to go do something, and something had been mentioned about, I've got to go do something for Heroes tonight. And I said, well, what's that?
That wasn't that speed dating thing that you.
No, it wasn't that. No,
not that one.
No.
Not that
Nothing
one.
wrong
That was
with
another.
that.
Yeah.
So he said, I've got this thing for Heroes. And I said, what's that? And he says, the Heroes Foundation. I said, tell me about it. And he told me what it was about. And that was, I want to say, maybe a month or 2 after we got that initial diagnosis.
Yeah.
So
okay.
it was right at the onset of my life getting turned upside down.
Before that actually happened.
No,
but-
it was right
Yeah.
after.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And so it was eye-opening to me to know, okay, great. There are, which inevitably my scope of view is this big.
Yeah.
And I didn't have that cancer story yet.
Yep.
And so now to find out, there's plenty of people here, and here's a foundation of people from Indy, still in Indy, where the money comes back to Indy. I was all over it. I was all about it. I said, you know, this is something that not only for the sake of my dad, for the sake of some of our other employees whose family has gone through this, this was something that I felt, this makes sense. Yeah. This makes sense for us, no question. Give me some information. I want to be a part.
Yeah. Well, we certainly appreciate your guys' support. I'm glad to be a part of the family in an extended way. What, I guess, based on what you've seen so far, both with your dad's experience and then getting to know the Heroes Foundation family a little bit more, what really resonates with you in terms of how you want to give back and what you want to see accomplished? I'm not going to put a time limit on it. I'm not going to say, what do you want to see in the next 5 years? But what are the hot buttons for you to see with the partnership and what organizations like ours and others are doing? Where do you want to see things go? That may be a dumb question.
No, I don't think it is. I think advocacy can be such a huge help. And I don't know how that starts. I don't know if it comes from being interconnected with all the hospitals, with different doctors' offices or whatnot, to say, hey, this is a new thing for you, because nobody in our family had really gone through this, that had this big of a bomb dropped, to say, here's a group of people that can tell you all the expectations you might need. And I think that would have having that element back then for us, I think would have changed everything. Because it was so much up at night, late, up first thing the next morning. Why haven't we heard anything? Okay, have we heard? Have we heard today? No, we're supposed to hear sometime this week. Okay, is it tomorrow? And we want that information now. That's just not how it works. And we didn't really understand that. And I think a lot of it would come from people who've been there, who've lived it in one form or another, whether you've personally done it or your family has, to say, let's get some expectations. You don't know what to expect, so here, we're going to link you up with some of these people, and have that. I'm trying to think of what Hendricks Regional calls it. I think they called it an ambassador. Okay. So my dad had an ambassador, that anything he needs from the hospital, from the doctor's office, he can call this person, and she makes the world turn. And it's almost like having an ambassador that's outside of the office to say expectations and what are experiences like, and I think that would be huge. That kind of outreach.
And this goes back to 20 plus years ago when I started when I was going through it. This was just kind of on the cusp where maybe the largest cancer center started these kind of ancillary programs, and now it's kind of commonplace today to have an ambassador or navigator or whatever title they want to give it, is huge, because you guys know. There's one piece of fighting cancer, which is the actual patient getting the medicinal treatment. But, dude, there's so many other aspects and effects and questions are created and different unknowns and all this stuff do you have to navigate. Those services are huge now.
But, I mean, even from the spouse to the I mean, my dad has, I'm the youngest at 34 of his 3 kids, and even as adults, like, okay, this is still kind of mesmerizing, and I'm kind of lost in all this. And so, let alone down to small kids. And that sort of support, I think, from a group like Heroes or other groups like us, that they can have that advocacy, they can have that expectation and mind setting, and be that navigator more so for families, not so much the patient and the doctor. I think that would be a huge, huge benefit.
Okay. Good. What else could we do to help? That's kind of a loaded question, right?
That's everything. That's the big kick. What? I don't think anybody can ever do enough.
Right.
And it's trying to find the cure for all these bad ways that we just can't get away from.
Yeah, and that's really kind of the challenge is. We have what we call the 3 summits, or you call them pillars, whatever you want to call them. But for us, it's summits, and it's the 3 kind of key areas or cores that we focus on. Obviously, research is pretty straightforward. It's trying to fund research to find cures, not just find cures, but then ultimately is a cure, but in between now and then is finding better ways of treating treating the different types of cancers. But then it's educating the public on ways of trying to prevent. Some things just happen for a reason, and we can't prevent those. But there are certainly things that we can do to try to minimize our chances of getting different types of cancer. And then the support piece. We're trying to cure it. Yes, we're trying to prevent it, but it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And these people need assistance and support to get through the process. And that's the challenge is trying to do all that at the same time.
Yeah.
It's,
For sure.
It's not
Yeah,
easy.
for sure.
So it takes partners like you guys and many others, hint, that make our job at least a little bit easier, or at least helps us get to where we want to go. So we again thank you guys for your support. We appreciate that.
Well, if there's ever been a cause worthy enough of standing our business and our name behind, it's for sure this one.
Oh, well, awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any questions that you have for us at all?
I don't think so right now.
Okay. Well, we thank you for your time.
Absolutely.
We appreciate you sharing the story. And again, best of luck to your dad. We'll certainly be here supporting you guys however we can.
Yep.
And thank you all for listening today on this episode of the Summits Podcast. Keep Chris's dad's thoughts, or keep Chris's dad in your thoughts and prayers. We would appreciate that. Thanks again, you guys, for joining us. Again, Heroes Foundation YouTube channel. Hit that little subscriber button and notification bell if you haven't already. And from wherever you guys are tuning in and listening, we appreciate it. And don't forget, beat cancer.